This is by far the biggest news we've had and the saddest news we've had for this game. A tweet was made by Miller saying, "Where is She-Hulk? Which characters are coming? And when will support end?" You've got questions about Marvel's Avengers, and these are my answers. And well, let me tell you guys, we are in for a shock. If you could leave a like on this video, it helps a lot, so I'd really appreciate it. But if you actually get to the end of a video and you say, well, I didn't actually enjoy it, then feel free to turn your like into a dislike. But if you could drop a like right now, it helps a ton. So let's dive into an article that was created and written by Miller himself, and he says the following: Avengers utilizes Crystal Dynamics' proprietary Foundation engine, which developers tell me has incurred massive tech debt after generations of augmentation and retrofitting the engine for online multiplayer, and how it's ultimately been brought to its knees. Now, the Avengers lead engineer Till Brenner actually described the Foundation during a bittersweet panel at Unreal Fest 2022 as something content side developers struggled with specifically, and that new hires required significant training and expertise to tackle, a sentiment that was ultimately echoed by the senior technical designer who goes by the name Alicia and the lead technical artist Alyssa. Now, behind the scenes, Avengers developers consistently struggled with a lack of available resources to tackle key technical challenges. Requests for additional team members were routinely denied while unfeasible deadlines loomed, which saw crucial work either being passed off to the new defunct Square Enix Montreal, quote-unquote, for free, as one source tells me, and ultimately how it was achieved after grueling amounts of unpaid overtime or simply not done, as was often the case. Now, Avengers is today helmed by former Marvel Heroes Amiga developer and self-described Marvel fan Brian Wagner, who assumed the position after the lead designer Philippe allegedly moved over to Perfect Dark around the release of Avengers War for Wakanda expansion. Now, of course, Brian has ultimately shepherded Avengers from one controversy to the next, from resigning on a promise not to include pay-to-win scenarios in the game's marketplace, to a public dressing down from the studio after apologizing for a decade-long string of tweets. Now, I just want to say, if you guys know what those tweets are, let's just say they were very, very wild to see. Now, Miller continues to say, sources tell me that Brian's time at Crystal Dynamics will end with Marvel's Avengers, and that the studio was already in preparation to sunset the game in 2023 when the scandal erupted. An ironic final chapter for a game that was once subject of a collaboration with the Ad Council on their Emmy Award-winning Love Has No Labels Diversity PSA campaign. Now, the studio leadership at Crystal Dynamics has apparently long maintained 3 to 5 years as their target for Marvel's Avengers lifespan post-launch, and well, it would seem they are on track to meet that goal. However, barely. As of now, I am told there are no plans for content in 2024. This past year has been a disappointing one for fans of Marvel's Avengers, with every update bringing its own unique issue ultimately. Now, March's introduction of new player onboarding tutorials left major story beats hidden behind mandatory spoilers, and June saw Jane Foster's introduction as a playable character, only for her to arrive with no contribution to the ongoing narrative and as a nigh carbon copy of Thor's existing gameplay, which of course was that whole big, I guess, blowout, if you will, when that DLC was released. That's me adding my words, by the way, onto the end of that. So September's release on the No Rest for the Wicked mission was met with criticism over its plainly visible lack of polish, with data mining revealing major cut story beats and shipped in-game flavor text pointing to content that is simply not there. Now, of course, November brought the Winter Soldier into the fray after months of assurances that the next character would not lift from existing ones as Jane did, which was categorically untrue. Whether 2023 will see another character added to Marvel's Avengers roster remains to be seen as the situation develops. But what should give some comfort to fans hoping for a final hurrah is that the audio that appears in the game's latest patch basically has Jane Foster acknowledging 4 currently unannounced heroes during combat. Those characters are Captain Marvel, Shuri, Ironheart, and She-Hulk. The absence of She-Hulk specifically has long haunted Marvel's Avengers, with multiple accidental confirmations this past year of not only her presence in the pipeline, but also the identity of her voice actress. Now, sources tell me that She-Hulk was in active development in late 2021 by mostly external partners and was ultimately shelved when Avengers shifted entirely in-house under Bryan, a byproduct of the existing long-term strategy being overhauled. The intention was to resume work on her character at a time when the team had sized up and ultimately could support development at a scale large enough to create wholly original gameplay after a period of smaller content drops and onboarding improvements to demonstrate the title's worthiness of further capital injections. Suffice to say, that did not ultimately come to pass in a time when Cyberpunk 2077 of all games bears the Game of the Year edition subtitle. It seems like a waste to abandon a project that is filled with potential as Marvel's Avengers. It has lauded action combat, award-winning acting, and a unique spin on the biggest IP across multiple mediums, and now it finds itself under the Embrace Group's stable, a doubtlessly better fit for the title than its previous home, but what it never had was stable footing. No win without an accompanying loss, and no milestone reached without some uproar materializing, and no patch without a new game-breaking bug. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's Miller's article in a nutshell. There's a few more bits and bobs to that article. If you actually want to read the full thing, I'll leave a link to the full article in the description. But all I can say is wow. So this is something, of course, a whole bunch of fans have actually just been dreading for a long time now. And well, it seems like 2023 is very likely, if not definitely, going to be the year that the plug gets pulled for this game. Whether or not the service will stay on is, of course, still a answered question, if you will. I do feel like the servers will stay on, but I guess we'll have to actually just wait and see. Now, of course, that's new content being added. Are we going to have a new DLC character as a standalone? That's a whole different story, but I don't know. It's what we expected, but it definitely has taken us all by surprise. And overall, this was a great article. Of course, Miller, as many people have been saying, has practically been the community manager for this game for as long as we can remember. So, shout out to Miller. And yeah, I guess we just gotta wait and see what happens now. But Spider-Man 2 is around the corner, which is a great news for us Marvel fans in general. And well, that game had some huge news that it was actually discovered in the original trailer exactly over a year ago now, and well, the map size in this game is gonna just blow you away. So you definitely want to check out the video you see on screen right now to find out what's going on with that.